Hi, we're here with Tim Smith from Canon at the Band Pro Open House 2015. Tim, thanks for coming and sitting down and talking with us.
My pleasure. Love coming to this event every year. It kind of marks the changing of the years for us.
So I guess to start off, I wanted to see, what's happened this year at Canon, what's been new in 2015.
There's been some new stuff. It's been a big year for a lot of things to kind of come to fruition. We've been bringing out gear and lenses for 4 years in November since we got into the cinema business, and we've produced 12 lenses now, cinema glass, and we're onto the C300 Mark II now, even though the Mark I is still available. Lots of cameras. We did introduce the C300 Mark II in April at NAB. As a product, we actually started shipping about 6 weeks ago, so it's now out in the world everywhere. So we now have a 4K camera with internal 4K recording, which that's sort of a first for us. A lot of demand for that, the ability to record simply without decks and things like that, and that's paid off pretty well. For me, it's been kind of that year when we moved from the days of the 5D Mark II, where people were using it for all sorts of things. It was never an A camera, a B camera, or a C. It was just a camera that they figured out how to use for things. Then we kind of came out with 300s and HD, and in the dock world, we were very much the A camera with the C300s. At one point, I heard that about 60% of all the docks at Sundance were C300 films, which is a huge thing in a couple of years. But it seems like in the last 5 or 6 months, we've started to move into the A camera world, especially with Netflix and Amazon. Both of those companies have put out like a 4K mandate. They want acquisition to be in 4K and delivered in 4K, which makes wonderful sense for their business model, but has also helped my business model quite a bit as well, having a 4K camera.
What other new and exciting things have happened this year before we kind of look at what's coming?
Well, one of the things we did this year, we introduced a lens, which is already legendary. It's already this lens that people are going to be using forever. It's a 50 to a 1000 zoom, cinema zoom, with a 50 to 1000 T5 stop. The focal length is unheard of. It's about 14 pounds, it's not overwhelming, and it's a spectacular piece of glass. That said, we didn't make a lot of them. I think in this town alone, you might only find 3 or 4 available for rental, and it's upwards of $70,000. But it's a huge optical statement as to what we're capable of doing. People do tend to see us as a camera company, Canon camera. We're really Canon lens. We've sold well over 1 million lenses that fit in the EF mount. So for us, a lot of it is about glass, and a lot of it sort of makes sense because, look, that lens that, if you buy that 50,000 this year, that'll be a workable, sellable, rentable lens in 20 years. Any camera you buy today will be on a shelf in 5.
Can you tell us more about the content being produced with your technology for Netflix and Amazon and what shows? And
Sure, to a point. I mean, there's ones we can talk about and other ones that are testing. One of the biggest hits for us so far, one of the biggest hits for us and for them was a show called Transparent, which Jim Frona DPs, that got a Golden Globe Award their first year, all shot on the C500 in 4K and then recorded to the Odyssey recorders. So it's a really nice combination. They used 3 or 4 cameras on that show. It's been renewed, it's coming back. I'm hearing that they probably want to test drive the C300 Mark II for that one and kind of slim down their package a little bit. But Amazon and Netflix delivering 4K is the one thing that's really taken 4K and made it really important, I think. We've all been out there producing 4K cameras, we all talk about resolution, but the need to really have 4K over HD wasn't really there in years past. But with these new business models of delivering 4K content to the web, the cameras now have to be 4K. There's a really good reason to shoot in 4K. So.
You guys have a camera that can shoot virtually in the dark.
Oh yeah, the Emmy 20.
Can you tell me a little bit about that? That's exciting.
I'd love to talk about the Emmy 20 and a test that we did that was really fascinating. About, 4 weeks ago now. All right, so the Emmy 20 is a camera head, no recorder. It's about the size of maybe 5 by 5 by 5 cube with an EF mount on the front. And it has the ability to record up to 4.5 million ISO. Now you can't wrap your head around that necessarily unless you see it. First time I saw it was in a test that we were doing in my office here in Hollywood. And we were down in my test room. I had blacked out the entire room, divotined over the exit signs. I mean, it was pitch black. You couldn't see your hand in front of your face. Then we moved the monitor into a gray tent, light-proof tent, and put the people that wanted to see the test in there. My first job was to run the camera, which meant turn the button on, stumble to the light switch, turn it off, and then try not to trip over things. So I turned the light switch off. It's completely dark. I can't see my hand in front of my face. And somebody in the tent says, "You've got to stop moving. You're casting shadows." So maybe you can wrap your head around what 4 million will do in terms of that. In a room where you can't see 2 feet in front of you, the camera can see you throwing shadows up against a wall. Yeah, that's my reaction too. And I know how it works, but I still didn't expect that. I also I was also kind of taken back by the amount of color it would see in complete and total darkness. Because in general, color disappears in darkness, but you can still delineate a color chart. And it has to do with the sensor itself, with the large microns that are on the sensor, and the ability to can gather light. Records in a shoots in a 1920 1080 HD outdoor recorder, and it's fascinating. It has a lot of interest in the military. I'm not going to kid you, they're very interested in it. But this world, the TV and film world, people's heads are starting to kind of wrap their head around what they might be able to do with it. And we had an interesting thing with Disney last month, where they were getting ready to change Space Mountain to, I think it's Hyperspace Mountain now. It moved from a Space Mountain theme to a Star Wars theme. And they redid all the graphics and stuff, and we mounted one on the lead roller coaster in Space Mountain so that they could shoot the ride during a press event. And kept finding ourselves having to back it down so that you didn't see every screw in the track, and because you could see everything in this. You could see everything. I think we settled around 350, 380,000 ISO, so you could get the illusion without breaking the illusion. But all the graphics were there, you could see the people, and then they streamed it and recorded it. But it was pretty interesting to send this through a ride in complete darkness, and see things you're not supposed to. It was like they lit the whole room up. So it's an amazing camera.
It's amazing camera. Total breakthrough.
Yeah, it is, and it's a statement piece and a technology statement that says almost anything is possible. You know, not to kind of go back and beat us up too much, but for years we would sit on these couches and do these interviews, and everybody go, "Well, what do you think about film and versus digital, and film versus digital?" And my answer always was, and it still is, film will never get better than it is today, but digital will never get worse. And we can do things with digital that you could never do with film. We can achieve things with digital that you can't achieve with film. We haven't been able to do it up till now, but we're now getting to that tipping point where the digital technology is about to really blossom and really give us the ability to do things we had never thought of. So rather than just say, can I make it look like film, now we can start saying, what can I make this look like?
Well, that's great. Just as a quick thing, you know, where can the community find you next year? Trade shows?
Yeah, I mean, our big one is always NAB in April. Sure. That's usually what we keep our mouth tightly closed for until that shows up. And there's always something new at NAB.
You can tell us here.
Yeah, absolutely, sure. As soon as the cameras are off, I'll fill you right in. But yeah, NAB is the big one for us. And then we do, I mean, in this city, we do lots of things. If you're in LA, we have an office at 6060 Sunset Boulevard, which is Sunset Gower Studios. We do constant events there, constant training seminars. Right now we have a gallery showing for our still photographers. Printers are there, all things pro. So keep your eye on the website, which is CanonUSA.com. You can look at the events that happen there if you're local and you want to come by the events. Most of the time they're perfectly free. Sometimes there's a $5 cover charge kind of thing, depending on whether we're serving food. But it's always well worth coming by for those. Otherwise, we're all over the place.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks to Tim for stopping by, and thanks again.
No, my pleasure.
All right.